Alright, so anyways, Blender crashed earlier, so here I'm gonna actually open a second instance of it and try to go up in the autosave and take a look at what I got here. Yeah, actually that's not too bad. Alright, so let's just get back to this. You know, this was like a whole separate thought from like an hour ago, to be honest, but that's kind of how I am. Like, I'll have like multiple blenders open and I'll just jump between them, just doing different stuff in different files. So people see all these whips, but you know, they do get completed, and sometimes the completed model looks so different than the whips that, you know, most people don't even notice that it was something that I posted a while back. But you know, now I'm just gonna cut in here, just give a hole for the neck. No, we're just gonna move this up. If I click apply here, it'll have an error because it, you know, something with the calculation, you know. If you really think about it, it makes sense. It's not worth explaining because I can't. But, you know, we'll just borrow this guy's head, you know. Actually, let's get these wires back. You know, I need those. We'll Control C, copy. Get rid of this head. Control V, paste. Done deal. So now, you know, I got my meaner head going on over here. So, you know, something that I'm always preaching to Yella about here is the Easy Lattice tool. So this is an add-on for Blender. You know, I've given you, actually, I just remembered, I've been doing a bunch of crazy stuff. I was about to kill it. Yeah, I should not put a lattice on a bool-tooled object. Also, I shouldn't have merged all of this stuff together. But, you know, whatever. You know, let's just take care of it like so. Separate by loose parts. And now everything's split again. So now what I can do is basically, am I in only rendered mode? Yes. So I'm going to insert a lattice. Instead of using the Easy Lattice tool, I'm just going to use a lattice because it'll make it a little easier on my life. And this is also an important part of my process. I don't know if I emphasize it enough, but always go through and you know, do a lot of you know, post adjusting on the proportions, because you know, as far as anatomy and shapes go, it's something I'm still always working with. You know, sometimes I kind of revert back to, I guess, kind of like anime proportions or just unrealistic ones. So, you know, always come back and add something like this at the end to just play around with the shape. So this is something that, you know, is one of the more underused, underrated tools of Blender, at least in my opinion, because I've never seen anyone talking about it. But, you know, everyone should definitely be using this thing. So we're just going to just box select all this crap, unselect this, select this, Control P, Gladys to form. And you know, one day they'll hear my cries and they'll add a lattice sculpt, but in the meantime they'll continue to be like, what the hell would you use it for? But you could imagine, I would love it. So I'm just going to sculpt on just basically one side and just make some adjustments on the proportions in edit mode. And see, basically everything's all plated, hard surface, but I'm still able to change the shape in a large way, and you know, change the rhythm and all that stuff. So the other side isn't reacting so well, and that's obviously because the modifier order is out of whack. So, you know, don't get caught up worrying about stuff like that. So all I'm looking at is just the right leg, imagining that the left leg wasn't driving me insane. You know, so I'm going to select this piece and move it up so it doesn't have ghost syndrome. Move it up and do the same thing on everything. And after that, you know, everything's back the way it's supposed to be. So and so even with this, you know, I could just move it around. I could just delete it and the legs will go back to normal. So yeah, that's just kind of just look at like a shape key in the 3D view. I think that's kind of how I approach it. It's like a shape key in the 3D view, and now, you know, with them both mirrored properly, I can you know, do better with my shapes here. Alright, so the next thing is, you know, the chest and the body. So, you know, if we were just playing with just this arm, right, and I wanted to quickly make like some, well, actually on my guy I gave him like a jacket, but you know, I did start plating up like the chest and body. So for something like this, I would just apply a level of sub D. That'll fix all the geometry, at least enough for me to not have to worry about it. The mirror is still active, so I applied the sub D and it caused a little pinching near the center, but you know, I don't care. It's like, I'd rather take it than prevent it, which is easy, but you know, whatever. For some reason I'm having some issues with sculpt. And I'm just gonna play around with just the shape a little bit. You know, and I don't have a whole lot of geometry here either, so you know, just trying to get just some and also, you know, this is a robot, so it's not like I need like human muscles, but you know, those shapes would at least help me from being criticized by my close friends. We're always like, this should be more humanoid. Like, it's a robot. Does that excuse me? Like, what if I just make these robots in the shape of something else? But, alright, so here I am with the body. And so I could take this thing in edit mode and, you know, just select pieces. Like, I'm just in, you know, you're the lucky winner. So rip, cut, you know, we're just gonna go in object mode, hide this thing, and let's just look at this. So this is our chess piece, and we can just take it to town, you know. And if we look at it geometrically, it's not that bad. Now, a minute ago, you didn't notice, but this thing was a messed up monster of a mesh, and now it's cleaned up. It's even all quads. Like, I mean, come on, look at this thing. Thing's a beaut. You know, whatever. You know, you're not impressed. Get out of here. But Alright, so the next thing from here is add a level of subdivision, and just start hardening these edges. So hardening the edges, you know, people always are asking me, you know, what does that mean? So you know, you slide the edges at one, you slide the edge at the other. You know, you slide it back, you know, you slide it near the middle. You know, maybe you leave it near the other edge. You know, it's just ice skating. It's ice skating with edges, but it really you're controlling the interpolation between 2 points. So, you know, it's kind of a powerful tool. So when they mapped it to GG, it was like, you know, now these people are thinking. You know, like I don't know what they're thinking before having it all the way in the edge slide in the edge menu, but you know, moving it to where they have it now is one of the smartest decisions, you know, I think they've made in the software.
I asked earlier, but my mic was off, so nobody heard me. But do you have any tips on working with a tablet and beveling? Because I noticed it acts up really funny when you're trying to move it around, since you don't have the mouse wheel to add the actual loops.
Oh yeah, so don't polymodel with the tablet. You know, also when I'm sculpting in poly mode, like when I'm poly sculpting, which is what I call it when I'm modeling and sculpting at the same time, I'm not using a tablet. Like I use the tablet whenever I'm, you know, really, you know, pushing for some shapes. But really, just normal, I don't need it. Like, I can just get the job done, you know, just because the geometry is really simple. So it's not like I need like pressure sensitivity or specific, you know, control.
Well, I don't use it really so much because I just use a tablet pretty much for everything. So I guess now I have to run out and buy a mouse.
Well, yeah, it's gonna make your beveling a little hard. You're gonna have to map it to one of your tablet buttons, but I don't know about rolling that wheel, man. That's a horrible problem. You should have been number 18 sooner.
Actually, no, I think the newer Seat stuff actually does have wheels on it. I've been looking to upgrade.
Well, I actually have a mouse with that came with my tablet, but yeah, I need a new tablet, man.
Yeah, I don't really have any. I just have one of the bamboo. I think it's the one before this version of bamboos that are out now. So, but I mean, for most of what I need it for, it's fine. You know, for the Photoshop stuff, and you know, I even do video editing with it. It's just better on my wrist. I feel like I'm coming down with carpal tunnel.
Carpal tunnel comes down with a case of me. No, I'm kidding. Alright, hit smooth. Let's see, we'll take this. So I'll apply it like this, so that way I can keep the mirror. Also, I'll change this back to being wire, and that'll allow me to take this and pull it here as well. You know, these are the $1 million techniques, man. And so at the end, you know, you want to probably hit it with an edge split. At least then it won't look like crap, you know. Raise that edge threshold a little bit, you know. Play around with it, but you can end up with some pretty nice shapes coming out, you know. So don't let topology and that stuff fool you, because I mean the topology of this is going to scare you, but you know, if you don't look at it, you look at it from afar. Yeah. So I mean, it's like how am I going to UV it? Then also I'm gonna have to say get out, because I've answered that like 30 times. Like UVing it is just a matter of, you know, you could either smart project, or you could put some seams, or you could project from view and just use a smooth brush a little bit. But you have a lot of options there as far as getting it UV'd unwrapped. And I mean, in my video, I don't think I went over UVing like just some trashy bull mesh that you just got from, you know, modeling like an alcoholic. But, you know, maybe I should. I'm gonna do another one, you know, on UVs probably.
I actually recently just watched your old one. It was pretty cool.
So what do you think of this, Yellow?
It's coming along.
Alright, so let's look at this arm, right? So with the arms, you know, this is probably like, hey, I'm gonna use that add-on I bought from CG Cookies that I never used. So I'm just come here, draw some contours, you know, and basically all I'm getting is just like a unified mesh. So, you know, we come out of local mode. Whose audio is that?
Sounded like an echo of your voice.
Yeah.
A mic in proximity to a speaker.
Someone's recorded me on a VCR. Alright.
Sell those bootleg tapes.
So even with this, Yellow, nothing fancy, dude. Nothing fancy. Like, I mean, I could have cut this into smaller pieces and segmented it, but you know, I always do that. So, you know, in this one, I'm just going to put cut line. You know, bam. You know, come and take this, crack that edge. You know, put one here, and voila, you know. And now this looks like it's, you know, some separate pieces. You know, take this one, probably bring it in, you know, select a boundary loop, bevel it, you know, bring an edge up to meet it. You know, take this edge, bring it planar, you know, that'll harden it. You know, take this one, add one here, you know. And so we could take this, you know, and basically, you know, cut this out and hide it, and take this and mirror it across it. And that's how I just keep going on this thing and keep going until I was tired at like 6 in the morning, and then I'd go sleep for an hour and wake up at 4. But literally, you can take something like this where you just, you know, mess with your gesture and pose, you know, and all I did was like take this person and give them like a claw sim, right? Because you know, everyone's familiar with Duke's bot. If not, you know, let me bring them up real quick. But you know, this one's like one of my heroes. It's also how I met Yella. But yeah, this one, you know, this one's probably not the best shot of him, but let's see. Here we go. Yeah, this guy's basically been through an evolution. You know, I did him in like 2010, again in 2010, and then I didn't try again until 2013. So the next time I tried him again, you know, definitely got a better look on him, but definitely not the look that I needed him to have. So, you know, he's definitely getting there. I still love his helmet even to this day. but the shape and silhouette and things like that, I still find it a little lacking. I also liked my workflow for making this material. However, I think my distribution was a bit flawed. But, in retrospect, it was still a nice project. Had a nice render, but every time he did have a cape. But in this one, for some reason, he didn't. Now, I'm assuming that's because I didn't know how to do cloth sims back then. But, in this, I pretty much did the same thing, when it comes to, making stuff like this. You want to give your models a cloth or a blanket or something, because it's easy. You can do it like in a little amount of time in Blender, and in Maya you can also do it relatively quick and get quite a bit of control. And so the ease that you can do this stuff is definitely the things that you want to show off whenever you're introducing people to this software, because the speed in which you can get through the menus and your proficiency is what's going to help people use it. But nothing's more irritating than seeing people push it and they're like, been using it like a day. Like they're like, this is the greatest program ever. Or, my favorite is when people are like, this program's a ZBrush killer. I'm like, if you ever use ZBrush, you would never say that. Like, it's like pitting a chipmunk against a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like, Blender is great, but whatever ZBrush is as a program, they're very good at. So if it's a 3D sculpting program, but it is the best one that I've ever seen. If Blender died and disappeared, I would just be a ZBrush user.
Chipmunk can win, though.
A chipmunk would stand absolutely no chance of winning.
Any dinosaurs are dead.
In all
He
fairness.
wouldn't even win against a skeleton falling on him.
Especially a dinosaur skeleton.
Like, he wouldn't even win against a dinosaur egg. So here I am with my cloth, right? So
Nice.
just some simple stuff. And the next thing is I'll take it in weight paint mode. I'll hold Alt, draw a little gradient on it, hit it with the blur brush, straighten it up a bit. Now I can pin it, and by doing that, all I have to do is just go under cloth, set the pinning. Maybe I wanna hit up a preset. I don't know. I never hit presets, but there we go. Limp cloth. All right. So we want to definitely do something about that. I'll bring in a wind. And this is pretty much how I handle most of my cloth sims. Like, it's so easy. Like, in Blender you should sculpture closed, but you should also shape them a bit with polygons, but you should also just like use the cloth sim to help you out a little bit. But you should do a little bit of the work yourself, because if you extrude a bunch of cylinders and you try to run a cloth sim, it's going to have to calculate a lot more, and it's going to look a bit like garbage. Like, it's going to also take a lot of simming and a lot of subdivision to make it not look like garbage. So, helping it out a bit will take you a long ways. So here, we got our, I don't know what the hell denim is, but it's not very soft. Alright. There we go, got that silky silk. So I probably want to hit it with a third layer of sub D. Here we go. Now we're going to see some rankling. And so once I start getting some nice curl flows and I see it not, flipping over into itself nastily. I could turn on collisions for that, but I also could not, so I chose to not do that. So we're just going to go ahead and pause it here and bring it back some. See, it's like the Adventures of the Cape, dude. It's like, get down, evildoer. Alright, but, right about here, I think it looks cool, but right about here, it's like also very cool. So I'm going to go ahead and apply to sub D, applied a cloth. You know, when it comes to applying sub D, I always feel like Andrew Price. You know, but you should just get used to doing it. I mean, if you're gonna make an omelet, you're gonna have to break a few eggs, or you're gonna have to just throw entire eggs into your omelet, which is not gonna taste nice. But you know, it's also overlapping. So to fix that, I'm just gonna press Alt O, and that'll turn on proportional connected. And this is exactly what I was trying to avoid, but you know, I did want that little flippy flip, you know, so. So that might stiffed it a little bit, so I'm just gonna hit relax once, relax twice, maybe relax like 3 times, there we go. So here I am with my cloth. So, you know, even for something like that, it doesn't take a whole lot of cleanup. There's probably more cleanup needed, but let's pretend that it's cleaned up. So solidify, thickness, and we'll even put it before the sub D. So layer 1, layer 2. So here's our character. So whenever I'm looking at him in the 3D view, you know, he's like a little more interesting to look at, like, you know, and then you know, I gotta elevate him on top of a cube, you know. So I'll just put him on top of a cube and just go from there, you know, and just start setting up my scene. But you want to maybe try blocking in a scene before just attacking it. Like, I mean, I used to kind of come in and just build the head and just go from there, which I still do. I still do it all the time, you know, no knocking on it. But I'm just saying there are other ways that you can more effectively get in and have a mood. So, you know, that brings us to, you know, I'm just trying to think of some other ones that I've been working on. So let's look at CB3. CB3 is, oh yeah, this one's one of my last ones from my old style. So we won't even go into that.
Hey Jerry,
You know,
when using the bull tool in the viewport, how do you get it to not automatically apply it?
what do you mean?
Like, ain't that what you're using when you do the quick bull tool?
Oh yeah, I apply it, but I do it through the modifier.
Right, but I see you just like grabbing one object and grabbing another one, shift grabbing another one, and instantly bull tooling. Like,
Oh, control minus.
oh, okay.
So this was another project where I basically blocked it in and took it to completion. And this was just an experimentation of just like basic modeling, you know, because like I said, I've been watching, you know, these boards and everyone, and it's just so bad to see people struggling with things so far in the pipeline. Like I had a guy write me, he's like, "Can you help me with a file?" And then like I was like, "I guess, what's up?" And he sent me like a 200 megabyte blend file. It's like, the heck, man. Like, and then gave me like a Christmas list of stuff to do. It's like, no, like I can't do that. I work too much. But you know, this shape here, cylinders, circles, that's it. And so to get it to this shape, all it is me just, you know, coming in here and just adding edge loops and cutting pieces off. And then after cutting them off, I'm able to attach them like so. But, you know, to build even the hand, I just went over in another layer, just like pieced one together real quick. You know, a robot hand is nothing but just a handful of epic robot fingers. So, I mean, even with this guy, you know, if I was done with this file and was like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and try to prepare this guy for a comp, I would copy it, make a new file, paste it, and so now I got this guy over here, you know. And we're just going to select all this stuff. Alt-C, convert to mesh, Control-J, go in edit mode. And all I'm doing is just basically applying all the modifiers and bringing it into edit mode to grab it and do stuff too. So now I'm just going to, you know, snap my cursor here and use my cursor as my pivot and basically just play with this in the view. So I mean, you know, I mean, rigging is definitely essential, but rigging is also something that you have to learn how to do. So if I'm in here talking to a bunch of beginners that aren't riggers, then, you know, you're not going to want to get in here and do any rigging because it sucks. So, I mean, and it's not even that it sucks, you know, I take that back. You know, there's a certain rigger I know who would get mad about that. But, you know, rigging actually isn't too bad, but, you know, there are a lot of fundamentals and gotchas to get stuck on that may make it a bit, you know, annoying to begin with. So even down here, selecting all this stuff, you know, this time I'm Control-0, Alt-C, Control-J, you know, then separate it. That way there's not a level of sub-D on it. And this time I'm just
I
going
love
to...
personality of the guy.
You love the what?
Personality of this guy.
Oh yeah, the fat cat. I mean the rabbit. Yeah, I did like a whole like kind of I was doing robot animals for a second. Like I plan on going back to it, but I was just jumping around. Like these proportions are definitely fun to play with. Like I've been hooked ever since the episode of Crunching with the creature box sculpts. Like I saw it and was like, I mean after doing that episode, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with these proportions for a while because they're definitely fun to block in with, and I've come to see that they're a lot easier to manage when you have fun proportions that have relationships with each other, you know. So now I'm just gonna just kind of pose this guy, just, you know, using all the 3D tools at my disposal. So, you know, I'm
Superman pose. Like Superman flying pose.
so this thing, you know, he needs his does he have a sub D? Everything has a sub D. So we'll just join it to that. And now, you know, he will, and this is, you know, this is my tutorial how to get on top row. No, just kidding. No, they haven't picked me for a minute now. They're like, we've seen him enough. We've fed his ego. Like I need to go get the like the Blender certified training thing, but I don't know if it's just something I'll just have to pay money for and maintain just for something I already have in a field where they don't care. So I don't know. Because if I say it on my resume, I probably will lessen my chances of getting a job. Let me put it like that. Like it's like someone wrote my boss one day and was like, "I'm an X-normal master," and like he told me about it, and we both had a good laugh about it because for one, he doesn't even know what X-normal is, or does he use it? You know, he just has us do it for him. And, you know, for two, you know, X-Normal's just a normal baking program. So you'd never write and say that you were a pro in it as a way of trying to get a job. It's like, the hell kind of job has you baking normals, man? But, you know, maybe that's beyond the point. So now, you know, we got them like so. And, you know, if I wanted to just keep going with this thing and just play with it, you know, and then I'm just showing y'all just kind of just how I just mess around now in Blender instead of, you know, the old way that I just, like I used to kind of work a little bit more organized, like I was kind of by the book, where I just did everything the way I was supposed to, you know, kept good topology, you know, went home after dark, you know, didn't talk to strangers. And then, you know, now I've broken. Like I'm just like, you know, I worry about this topology, and what does this topology gets me? A lot of time worrying about topology. What if I don't worry about topology? What if I worry about just the appearance? And then come back and worry about topology if it's relevant. You know, like I'd rather have a piece that looks like it has nice topology than have a piece that isn't even that nice, but has beautiful topology. Because I mean, no one's never like, you know what, your wireframes are top row. Those are some top row wireframes right there. Like I've never seen wires like that in my life. Like you put those wires by those wires in a way I haven't seen in 45 years. No, doesn't happen. So I'm broken. So I got this shattered, the shattered ground. Everyone hates this, by the way, because I always do it. But they made rigid bodies so great that it's actually fun to play with. But you don't go telling a Maya user that, because in 2015 they recently upgraded the tools to actually be decent. But before, their physics wasn't very good. But like I said, don't go telling people that their software isn't as good as yours. It's like comparing your genitals, It's like, for the record, mine is bigger. All right. But don't tell anybody. Police are looking for the men responsible for that hole in Siberia. So now I got the.
All the abused manhole covers.
Alright, so for this, what I'm going to do is give it a big base and a small head. No pun intended, but as you see, this is what happens whenever you bring it up, and if we hide this thing, it's like, so usually I'll let it go through and I'll catch it on the right frame, And it's like, how would you apply this, right? You'd come over here and click these buttons, right? Because this is Blender, and you could just click buttons and make shit happen, right? No. All right. No, you can't. So to apply this, I would add a plane, invert the selection, join it to the plane, canceling all of that crap, and then delete the plane. Just take my word for it. It's so easy. Like, I used to go through it the other way, and for some reason, like, it would give me all these, like, I'd just deal with all this strange crap, like, and then I figured this out one day. I was, like, same thing with Alt-C. Like, I use Alt-C so much, like, I don't think it's a very popular button, but it is to me. Alt-C has a place in my heart. So, now we got this guy. Set up like so, right? So it's like just busting through. But this is how I would come through and set something like this up, and then
That didn't work.
and I would of course export this out as an OBJ, put it on Sketchfab. But another project that I was working on was the cat bots, right? Like I think y'all have all seen this piece here, where basically I have my little cat dude. Now, over the course of this project, right, this one was another process of building a thing using just general shapes. These were my shapes, right? This was my shape that I started with. Like primitives, like the most primitives ever. Like, these primitives are so simple, cavemen would get mad at them. Alright? Like, these are the really simple primitives. So, I mean, when I say, like, get to work, man, like, if you're not inspired, block in something. Like, just block it in, Just get in there and just put a block next to another block and start putting something together, because you can't force inspiration, but you can force inspiration. You know, I think Jesus said that in the book of Martin.
The
But
Book of Martin, huh?
oh yeah, like I'm telling you, like I need more than a Blender church. I need a Blender cult. Like all my members would wear hoodies. Like the logo would be upside down and painted black.
That's dark.
Suzanne would be burned every day. There would be one Suzanne printed and burned every day in the fire. One primitive would be burned in the fire every day. Like to show that, you know, don't let those primitives be around. But, you know, as far as blocking in this scene goes, you know, we continue on looking through this. So here's the block in. Originally, it was going to be about anti-bullying. You know, like, it was like, hey, you, leave that cat alone. You know, like, these cats shouldn't be bullying on these kittens, you know. Is kind of how I was thinking it. You know, I just had this random idea. I was like, I could make this little cat deal with these big cats. But eventually I realized that cat on cat violence is something that shouldn't happen. I shouldn't endorse it. So I changed them to be mice. But, you know, even on the garbage layer, I was still thinking of ideas. And so one of those ideas was like something like this. Like, I mean, you know, I went through an idea and like threw it out immediately. Like, so, I mean, it wasn't like a
It
one.
looks like a pedophile.
Yeah, this spear would be like discovered by Chris Hansen. So, you know, continuing on. So the next iteration of this file, this thing goes through some serious enhancements, you know, on the modeling from this. In fact, I'm trying to find one where he grows up. Now, this is still part of kind of my old style of hard surfacery, but I did want to keep it slightly simple. And also, you know, what the heck is that? But, you know, actually, I'm going to just go ahead and delete that and save this file just, you know, between you and me. Alright, now, also, you know, in the face, he was designed to have his mouth open. So I was still going to work on some stuff to go on the inside. But, you know, that's kind of also where I realized that I kind of maybe gave him like a kind of a frog waddle worth underneath. But, you know, I need to go in depth onto that. So the next iteration of this file goes up and, you know, is going, I changed these guys to mice, you know. And so these mice were modeled, let's see, right here. So here's like the basic block in. And like all I did was just like, you know, same workflow I showed you guys of just like blocking in like the metal pieces and hardening up the edges. And just putting some stuff like this in there, like, what is this? Well, let's take a look at it. Look at this piece. Like, this piece is nothing. It's like a circle with like a squeeze thing in the middle and a square on top and some little hoses coming up into it. But to like the casual observer, it looks like something that could indicate possible movement or machinery or mobility, or definitely something better than just plugging something in there, you know, because, you know, that kind of complexity will definitely kind of add to the credibility of the model you're trying to pull off, you know. But I shouldn't be lecturing on that kind of stuff. So, you know, also, you know, pulled his tongue out. But yeah, I thought it was all right. You know, I was planning on taking it a little bit further because this is like what I usually do is I'll go through model it and I'll call it like level 1. Like this is like the level 1 sculpt. Like level 2 is where I apply a level of subdivision. I go in, I start beveling and insetting and stuff like that. And then level 3 is just bulling it like crazy, and just, you know, by that time you'll end up with a very nice piece. So, you know, for him, all I did was take him, which we can actually grab this guy, copy. You know, actually I don't even have the other file open anymore. So I was going to say we could add this guy in there with him. But, I mean, if we look at this file, there's even a guy hidden that was basically supposed to be exploded. And he's not even present, so, you know, this scene's dead to us. We're going to go ahead and open up. Oh, yeah, another thing, too, is I have these files called, this one's called Catbot Rigged, right? And basically someone wrote me and was like, I mean, someone was talking to me and was like, "Hey, you didn't rig that guy." It's like, "Well, leave me alone, dude." You know, like I don't want to rig him. He's not even in animation. He's for a pose. So I actually went and made a file where I rigged him and basically, took him up to being able to be animated, right? Just using like a simple rig. But I ended up not having to even use that because I plan on coming back and revisiting it after I tear through like 8 more robots, and then you'll see a very serious cat bot that has some changes. Now notice that that one was him being rigged, and it's a file by itself. So I show y'all that you can copy and paste stuff all over the place. And so, Ratbot also had a file where basically I went in and built and posed just like I did in that other file, 2 different variations to put around him. But I mean, it's this kind of stuff is how you would build like a piece, right? So you get farther and it gets denser, and the computer starts to choke, and you're like, I don't want to deal with this file anymore. I want to start over. How am I going to deal with this file? There's too much subdivided crap in here. So that goes down to simplify, because to simplify is something that you can always turn on, lower it down to like 1, and then the scene's manageable again. And if it's not, then lower it down to 0. But you can definitely get control of your scene like that to continue working in it. But that's why I work on this stuff outside of it, because then I could just copy and paste it over, and I'll have its UVs or materials or whatever, and I don't have to clutter down the original file by creating everything in the same file, because this thing is deep. So watch, I'm gonna render it.
There it comes.
Hey, Jerry, I'm gonna go and take off my.
All right, yeah, I'm just letting this render for a minute. All right, so actually, hold on, I'm gonna get something to eat real quick. Damn, pizza's too hot, so I might as well explain to y'all my compositing process. So if we look at a 3D view, there's only 14 frames, but those frames are basically this guy shuffling around and these mice coming in, So that way, whenever it renders, it gets a nice amount of motion blur. So if we look at this in the compositor, it looks like there's a ton of nodes. But really, it's not, because I mean, you put the nodes yourself, so they're your nodes, and you get to know them pretty well. So I mean, if you get lost, it's your own fault. But one of the things I always do whenever I'm compositing is I use the normal pass, which the normal pass looks like this, and a lot of people don't know what to even do with it. So you basically connect up to a normal node, and you can actually use it to basically do like a normal relighting of the scene, right? And by doing that, you actually get some pretty nice rim light if you use it just right. So what I do is I run it through these color ramps, which gets it real harsh, and then I combine them together and use them to actually brighten up the image by putting it in the factor of a color ramp. So if that sounds complicated, then you're not at the level to understand that you're not at the level to be at the level to understand the level of compositing here. But really, it's not that complicated. All I'm saying is that I used a bunch of normals and color ramps to make a really fancy factor to just turn up just certain parts of the image. And I mean, what's crazy is I can like tune this and like, get real-time relighting on the fly without having to re-render. I can even inject it with colors, make it purple and stuff like that. So I mean, it's just some stuff that I do in like every video, and it's not even like the best compositing tricks. It's like just real basic stuff, you know, because the render isn't anything fancy either. The render has no lights. The render is nothing but ambient occlusion. That's it. I just took ambient occlusion and ran it through all these compositing nodes and ran it through all of this just so I can make a status update. But that's it. You know, there's like, I could have went through, put on materials. I mean, I texture painted this thing in Substance Painter twice. So if we even bring that up, you know, that's a slightly more interesting topic. You know, all this Blender talk, you know, giving me a headache. Wait, what room is this? Oh. Alright. Dang, it sure takes a long time for Steam to load my game. Still loading. Alright, so over in Substance Painter, I basically unwrapped this guy twice, but the first one I'm going to show you is the big bot, because I UV'd him all together and just exported him kind of as this little statue, so that way I could just paint him. And so this is like part of, basically I set up these files for showing off Substance Painter. So every time I show someone the program, I have like these files set up already where I just basically modeled something epic, UV'd it, and got it over here and just basically show people how the program works. So I mean, this is something that you too should approach your software as, because you know when you open a file, you want it to be a file that you know you want to be involved with, right? Like if I open my file just earlier of my robot, you know, actually the view is supposed to be like this. Let's see. There we go. So if I save it like that, you know, that's what it's supposed to look like next time I open it. So when you know, close your file, you definitely don't want to be like this, or, you know, looking up his butt, or just somewhere random. You want to definitely, you know, also want to put this sticker on both sides of him. So just while I'm here, select that, mirror, select that, mirror. There, now he's a soldier. You know, before he was just like a visitor. But also for this file, you know, because I applied the subdivision, there's no modifiers, right? So it looks all dense, but it's really not as choky on the computer as it would seem. Or maybe I have 16 gigabytes of RAM. Whichever of those is correct. I know one of those is right. You know, I'm hoping it's not the RAM thing. But I'm definitely glad it's the RAM thing. But, you know, we're basically looking at this over here. So, you know, as far as this guy's paint job, for the base texture, I just painted like just 3 layers of color. Like that, and that's pretty much it. Now, as far as the wear is basically like a series of levels just painted. But I mean, whenever it comes to edge wear, you know, I keep telling you guys that, you know, texture painting in Blender it's too old school to still be being used and expect to make, you know, really fantastic pieces, unless you're also, you know, doing a little bit of treating on it to make your roughness and your other maps, because you can't just get away with just diffuse. It's like the most noobish thing ever, right? Like they make like a wooden floor and they just put a picture of wood on it. They're like, why does this look realistic? It's like, well, one, you have lighting information baked into your photo. 2, you got your texture from a perspective photo. You know, this is a picture someone took of their floor. Like, I guess they're still in their house or something. Can just put that on the floor. But I mean, for painting metal, you know, and like wear and things like that, like this is all it is for me. You know, and I can even go in and just lower it to height. And I mean, all this stuff, like straight over into cycles. Like, I mean, I just export all my maps, plug it right into cycles. So, I mean, whenever it comes to, like, I mean, zero brush is great and all, but it's using a system that you probably don't want to get in the habit of using in your pipeline unless your pipeline is only Blender. In which case, you're not getting far down the pipeline anyways. You're dealing with an oil spill at the beginning. You know, you start having the script automatically UV it with the smart UVs and just tell you that everything's okay. Tell you that everything's okay in the background. You know. But see, with something like this, you would just paint it on and just you know, add more stuff onto it. Like I'll get rid of the floor, and you know, I could just paint just a little bit of wear and I mean just a little bit of just asphalt, you know, just dirty them up. But I mean, even with texturing, you know, I think people are waiting for like some magic tip on, you know, just texture painting when really it's just you got to get in there and just do it, you know, just drop some paint and lower the opacity substantially until you know why you shouldn't. Which is pretty much what I do. Like I come over here, I just paint the hell out of it, you know, and I just lower down the diffuse intensity, and now that's just a discrepancy on the surface. Like it's no longer a tar baby, you know. So we're gonna add another layer, and you know, this one we're just gonna hit it with the scratches. We'll give it height, and you know, stick this one off the surface.
Oh, man.
And see, with these scratches, you know, we could basically just have a little bit of stuff sticking up off the surface. And like this is all I do is like I go in this program and I just paint. You know, sometimes I open it and I'm like, oh man, I don't think I could texture paint this. It's gonna be hard. You know, I can't do this. I mean, really, it's so easy. You know, I already have a video where I demonstrate it all, but you know, just to show you all some other models over here. You know, there's also this thing. So like I said, I UV'd the catbot twice. Like I took him and modeled him through level 1, and I took him and modeled him through like level 2, and then re-UV'd him, which basically means I added all those joints in between, like right here, stuff like that. But this guy, you know, these fill layers are set up in a way that I could basically, if I was working on this project, you know, professionally or you know something like that, and they came and was like, hey, I want this guy to be blue or purple, you know, red, you know, oh happy day for me, you know, red's my favorite color, but you know, this time we're gonna go with orange, and so you know that looks good. And so the next thing is up here we can just you know, add another layer and just start painting in wear, like hit the particle brushes. You know, if this crashes, it's over. No, just kidding. But I do have only just a few minutes left. But yeah, I was planning on definitely keeping it shorter today. But I just wanted to make sure I got, you know, I'm just helping it. I'm just helping it crash now. In fact, you know what? Just get out of here. The cat bot's like, don't go.
Yeah, he is.
Oh man, it got me. Why does it have to be like this?
Oh, get up. I got 18.
This thing,
18
man.
HP.
You know what? We'll call it meeting adjourned.
Looks like it's gonna be